What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Jenks Island Podcast, the only podcast where you can get your takes from a washed-up Division III corner. Joining me on the island again here is Ty McGee, good friend of the podcast, and prior coach of myself back in the college days. I don't know if I've said that before, but I figured that was a good thing to mention. Getting right into today's episode, Week 10 passed, and there were some big moments. The Saints got a big win over the Falcons. The Broncos had a big game that we're going to talk about in a little bit. And there's some voodoo magic, some black magic going on in Kansas City. Who knows? We'll break that down. But before we get into any of those games, breaking those down as well as breaking down Week 11, let's get right into the review of our Week 10 or Week 11 Pick'em leaders. At number 1, we got my cousin's Micro Penix at 102-50. He take a controlling lead, 2-game lead here. Unjuicy J at 149, Picking Grapes at 99-50, and then we have Hammer at 96-56, tied for 6th. Ty and and B-Fin are all tied at 8th with 94 wins or 94 correct picks. I have 58 losses, and Ty has 54 losses. Because like every once in a while we'll miss a game, but we account for it. Don't worry. But those are the standings as of right now. Ty, as I just mentioned, there was a big game for the Broncos this prior week. And, Bo Nix didn't look bad. The team didn't look bad. And then all of a sudden at the end, it just comes crashing down in a very crushing manner with the Chiefs just bulldozing that left side of the line and blocking the kick. What were your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, first of all, my thoughts were, Bo looks very impressive, right? 0 turnover worthy plays, and that was the first time anyone's done that against the Chiefs so far this year. So that's, from the start of the season to now, right? The evolution of Bo has been very impressive. It continues to be the Chiefs just get these crazy calls. The referees are basically gifting them in a lot of ways, right? We get that third down when Denver gets that sack by Nick Bonito and basically pushes them into a position where they'd have to punt. They weren't even in field goal range. And they call, I think it was a holding call on Brandon Jones. And when you watch the all-22, right, it's a simple stab and run with the guy. Didn't stop him from running his route. That changes the entire game, right? Whether, the analysts or the coaches want to say it or not, at the end of the day, right, that turned from a punt drive to a touchdown drive. And we lost by 2 points, right? But even beyond that, right, Denver just kind of shot themselves in the foot, right? You can't do that when you're playing against the refs a little bit and you're playing against a good team like this. Cortland Sutton drops that ball right before the half. That really puts us in a position to kick maybe a 30, 40-yard field goal, end up kicking a 60-yarder and just missing. So you can tell, despite the wind, that probably would have went in if you give him 15 more yards. And then just at the end of the half, right, that mixed field goal. And it's not, special teams blunders, right? You can maybe chalk it up to that, but it's a 60-yard field goal in the wind and a blocked field goal. At the end of the day, Denver just had to play perfect football against one of the better teams in football with the referees seemingly on their side. There was a couple other ones that, you never want to blame the referees, but at the end of the day, when some of these calls are so blatant and so obvious, that either they're A, ridiculous calls, or B, terrible missed calls. It's really tough, but, it's promising to see Audric Esme really get involved. He led the team in carries, really dominated in the run game. Courts, still dominating, and Bo Nix just looked good against, a really, really good defense, top 5 in the NFL. No turnover worthy plays, like I said. That's a huge stat. The first one to be able to do that when Mahomes is coming to you and Kelsey's coming to you after games and saying that guy's a baller and he's ripping the ball over the field. That's super promising for the future. This Denver team, they're exceeding expectations. 5-5. Yeah. They got an easier schedule coming up for the rest of the season. We knew these last 2 weeks were going to be tough. And no rookie quarterback's ever even been to the Super Bowl, right? So this year was chalked up as, this is a rebuilding year. And the fact that we have a playoff chance at this point in time, it's really promising for the future.
Yeah, I think the way your defense is playing right now, and Bo Nix is being efficient. That's kind of what we talked about going into the year with Bo Nix, is Sean Payton and his system could craft Bo Nix into being efficient quarterback. And like we saw like him and Sean Payton went at it at the beginning of the season a little bit. And that was kind of like what he needed just to like to establish himself as that top dog in Denver. And I think it's paying off well for you guys. For the Saints, we came out, Darren Rizzi. I don't know why I keep calling Mike Rizzi, but Darren Rizzi came out and just turned the whole team around, like energy wise, vibes wise. In the Superdome, it was wild. Everyone was expecting the Superdome to be like dead this week against the Falcons, and it was packed. It was pretty loud. And they come out, beat the Falcons, and then you see like after the game, Rizzi's like running on the field. Peyton Turner shoves him in the back, and you see his like legs go out from under him, and he looks like he's had a stroke or something. And it was like that's just the funniest thing. It was like after the game, he goes into the press conference. Yeah, it was just a stinger. No big deal. I'm all good now. I'd exchange that, or I'd exchange that for a win any week. I'm like, dude, this guy's he just loves the game. And then he talks about how he clogged the coach's toilet right before the game. He's like, oh, this is gonna be a crappy day, but it turned out to be great. And it's like this is the definition of like a special teams coach that just like has the energy to turn like a team culture around. And I'll shout out special teams coaches. Ty and I both played at Muhlenberg D3, and like our special teams coach, Coach Brown, like every single practice and meeting and everything, like he is like the vibes guy of like the culture of the team. He had a relationship with every player on the team, and like special teams coaches, they can truly build a bond with every single player, as well as just like keep everyone uplifted every single practice, get people motivated, things like that. So shout out to Coach Brown and Coach Rizzi, just being culture changers and vibe guys on the teams. And I think Rizzi could win that coaching job depending on how the rest of the year finishes. Anyways,
Rizzi really gives me the feel of Dan Campbell a little bit there too, right? The big vibes guy, right? Dan Campbell was a special teams guy, tight ends coach kind of guy. So, that it could be promising for the Saints. I think it could pay off, right? It's paying off in Detroit. So,
yeah. And even if if you don't want to pay him or like keep him around long time, you can keep him around for like next year. See what he does next year in like a rebuild season. And if he's still able to like keep the vibes up, maybe win more games than expected, then like you actually have a good head coach. See how it goes. Anyways, getting right into Thursday night football, a second straight week with a good Thursday night football rivalry game. We got the Commanders taking on the Eagles in Philadelphia at the Link. And this one's going to be a good game. Marshawn Lattimore is out for the Commies here. That could be a big blow. But, I mean, the Commies this past week, losing the Steelers without a few key players, obviously you use someone on the line, you lose Brian Robinson, and then Marshawn Lattimore, who you just traded for, is out. And going into this week against A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, this is a big week where you need that corner. And the Eagles, the running game is going to be pretty good in this one. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be the majority of this offense this week, but they will be throwing the ball to A.J. Brown a good amount as well, with St. Juste and Forbes Jr. just not. I don't think they're going to be able to cover him very well. The Commies will put up a fight on the offensive side of the ball, but I think the Eagles ultimately will win, with Lattimore not being able to slow down either of the receivers for the Commies here. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because we get B-Rob back and we get to see that Commanders offense back at full strength. So that's really big. I know Marshawn not being in, it kind of hurts them because he has the opportunity, if healthy and playing, to shut down a guy like A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, I really have to compare last week's opponent with this week's opponent for the Commanders and how they performed, right? The Steelers' defense is arguably the best defense in football, if not at least top 3, top 5, right? So they're up there. I don't think the Eagles are at that point. I don't even know if they're a top 10 defense. They're definitely good, right? They're a respectable defense, and they're definitely improving. But at the end of the day, right, the way that the Commanders played against a top 5, top 3, top defense in the NFL was really promising last week, right? They really put themselves in a position to be, score away, kind of that late, game, close fourth down, kind of screwed them. And, it was late game situations, right? That's where you want to put yourself in a situation against a really good defense to try to win a game, late in the game. And on the flip side, right, like the offense they were playing against, I'm not sure that Philly's offense, while on paper they're better than Pittsburgh's, I'm not sure that they're playing better than Pittsburgh's. Jalen Hurts, you get the ups and downs with him with the turnovers, and then sometimes he plays really well. I'm just not willing to jump so far onto this Eagles bandwagon. If Marshawn Lattimore that trade had never happened, how would we be talking about this game, right? Probably a little differently because we had been talking about, Philly's defense playing, or excuse me, the Commanders' defense playing pretty well the past couple weeks before that trade. So, I'm really confident in the Commanders. I think that they've shown the ability to play pretty good defense and really, quality offense, exceptional offense, one of the better offenses in the league with a rookie quarterback. I just trust Jayden. And getting B-Rob back is huge for them. Gives them a power aspect to the run game. So I'm going to go with the Commanders.
I like it. I like starting off with a game where we stagger our picks, so I don't mind the take. And B-Rob coming back is a big move for this Commanders team and that offense to see if obviously Eckler had a solid game last week. He still kind of showed that he has some juice left, but we'll see with B-Rob if they take the next leap with him coming back on offense. Next, we got the Packers taking on the Bears. Huge rivalry game here. Ty, what are your thoughts on this one with Caleb Williams showing some regressions, Waldron getting fired, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you asked me about this game 5 weeks ago, right, it's an entirely different answer. I'd say this is a lot closer game. We got to see how this Bears offense looks under new offensive coordinator. Obviously, it did not look great with Waldron the past couple weeks, but it's so hard to tell, right? They don't have some stud guy coming in that's going to start calling plays. So you don't know how things are going to change offensively and in the locker room if they're, they'll have more juice. The defense is still pretty good, but the offense, you just can't trust them at this point in time. And Green Bay's defense is playing really, really well this year. They have a lot of guys out there that, are some of the better players in this league. Offensively, they have a lot of weapons. Jordan Love is, healthy again. You just can trust the Green Bay team a little bit more than Chicago, right? Anytime you're going under change with a coaching staff, that's a pretty big deal. But also just the way that they played with a rookie quarterback this far. I believe in Caleb long term, but I just don't think right now that this team is ready to compete against some of the NFC's better teams, and Green Bay is amongst those. So, I just believe in Jordan Love. Matt LaFleur is a great coach, and I think he's going to get these guys coached up, ready to roll on offense. Defensively, I don't think they have too much of a challenge either, despite the Bears having a good team on paper, but just not performing. So I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to go Green Bay here as well. Not too much to add. The Packers defense has been balling this year, especially in the pass game, getting a lot of picks. And they also forced a good amount of fumbles too, which is like a good thing for the Packers fans to see. Sacks. They need to have a good defensive line game here. Hammer, when I talked to him on the phone the other day, he was like, the D line didn't get as much production as we wanted them to see the last few weeks. And it's like, this is a big game for them to be able to do that with Caleb Williams. Obviously, even when he has a little bit of time, he's still taking sacks in unnecessary fashion. So I think the Packers get this win, and I think the Bears start just kind of going into a slump a little bit, but they just keep Caleb Williams' confidence up. Try to get him like some plays towards the end of this year where he's just like he's still confident in himself to end out the season. Next, we got the Jaguars taking on the Lions. The Lions win a game with 5 picks thrown by Jared Goff, which is something you just don't see in the NFL. The Jaguars, I believe Trevor Lawrence is already ruled out for this one. So I'm going to go to the Lions here. Nothing really too much to add because with Mac Jones, I just do not see them winning this game. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, it's just really hard to trust this team even with Trevor Lawrence, right? He was playing really well, but they're still a bad football team. They've secured, the number 1 pick in the draft thus far for a reason, right? So, Jared Goff could throw 10 interceptions and they'd probably win this game. Not much to say, just like you mentioned. So, Lions.
Yeah, next we got the Raiders taking on the Dolphins. The Dolphins their defense is starting to step up. Their offense is fully healthy. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, another team that's hard to trust, right? The Raiders just have not looked good so far this season. They had some high hopes coming in with Gardner Minshew and some of the other guys that they had added, but just it hasn't amounted. And, Miami seems to they're getting things rolling, right? I know maybe not the prettiest win. We might not see them excelling really on offense. They're not throwing the ball really well, but they got to win at the end of the day. I just think this offense, there's too much star power on that team for them to not start clicking at some point in time. We've seen what they have been able to do in the past with Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle. I think it's just a comfortability thing. I think Tua's got to probably get a little bit more comfortable, try avoiding more head injuries because he almost got another one the other night. But at some point in time, right, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they're just too explosive of options. They've seemingly got A-Chain involved in the offense, and now it's just getting those 2 guys involved as well. You just can't trust Vegas. Vegas is not a good team offensively, defensively. They have Crosby and they have Brock Bowers, but outside of that, you can't really trust much. So I think I'm going to go Miami here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Miami as well. I think their defense will do enough, even if their offense isn't having a crazy game. I think their defenses will be able to hold the Raiders to a pretty low number points wise. And I think the Raiders offense, like you said, you just can't trust it. No matter who's at quarterback, they just don't have the great weapons outside of Brock Bowers to really keep them in games where they're behind. So for that reason, I'm gonna go the Dolphins here as well. Next, we got the Rams taking on the Patriots, and the Patriots just whooped the Bears, and it was like before that I had the Patriots really low in the power rankings. They moved up a little bit. It's just the Patriots every single week you have no clue what to expect. They could beat these teams. Their defense could play really well, or it's like looks really soft and then they lose. And then the Rams on the other side, their offense is back fully healthy. Their defense, their D line, the rookies are continuing to be just forces. And I was surprised when I was watching the end of the Dolphins Rams game. I was like, wow, I'm surprised that the Rams weren't able to pull this one off, just because I think their defense was playing pretty well in like the first quarter, and then it just whatever happened in the middle. But I think the Rams defense will be able to play well enough to keep them in this one. And I think the Matthew Stafford led offense with all these weapons will get them to win. I'm going to go the Rams here in this one over the Patriots. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I think this is one that the Patriots definitely could win, right? Like you said, you don't know what you're going to get with this team. Will the defense play well? And how well will their, mediocre, if not worse, offensive line hold up for Drake May? Because Drake May's looked really well. They're really good thus far. He's like looked better than Caleb. He's looked very well statistically and just the film wise. He's looked really, really good. But because you can't trust them week in, week out to be the consistent team that you would want to see in games like this, it's hard to go with them, right? The Rams, while they did struggle in the middle part of that game last week, 15 points is just it's not great for a team with that many options, right? Exactly. With Puka back and Cup back and Kyron Williams and Matt Stafford back there, right? They have weapons. This should be a high scoring team. The team that can put up a lot of points. I still believe in them, right? I still believe in their weapons. Defensively, as you mentioned, we keep saying week in and week out, Fisk and Verse are dominating. They're playing really well. Their young defense, they traded away Tre'Davious White, and they still are continuously playing well. So, I just have a lot of confidence in them to figure it out and could keep themselves in the playoff race. And New England, they're a tanking team for a reason, right? They're rebuilding. Drake May will look good, I think. I think he'll still play well. He hasn't really had a game where he put up a stinker, but I just can't trust the rest of this team. So I'm going to go with the Rams.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like you want to see the Patriots like do well here in this one, just show that they are like at least decent with Drake May, but and they are like Drake May has been playing solid. It's just you can't really trust them to pick them. Next, we got the Browns taking on my Saints, led by Darren Rizzi, and the Pat McAfee show. Darren Rizzi came on, and they were like, "Yo, do you know anything about the Rizzler? You got to have the Rizzler come to one of your games." He's like, "Yeah, the Rizzler. I know all about him." And you started doing the Riz face, and it was like the hilarious moment. Yeah, it's like such a random thing for like Darren Rizzi to know about, right? Like he's like, "Yeah, I'm in my routine too much. I don't know about things too much." And then he's like, "Yeah, we got to have the Rizzler to a game," and he's not going to come to this one, maybe a game down the road, but it just shows that like this guy is just. He's so happy being a head coach. He's like, I don't know. The vibes in this one are gonna be really fun. The Jameis Winston coming back into town into New Orleans. I think that the fans are gonna cheer for him when he comes out of the tunnel, just because Jameis was so beloved in New Orleans. Now, on the field, once the game starts, I can't say that the vibe's gonna be the same. They're gonna be kind of cheering against him, and I think Jameis Winston will have another poor game in this one. We did slow down Kirk Cousins with a better offense last week. Tyrann Mathieu got a game-winning pick. So I think in this one, Jameis Winston is going to have a little bit of I don't want to say he's going to struggle, but I don't know if he's going to have a great game in this one. And I think the Saints should be able to win. Eric McCoy is looking to come back, and he was our center for the first 2 weeks, and then he went out week 3. We lost that close game to the Eagles. So if he comes back and the run game is back to what it was week 1 and 2, this game could and should be going in the Saints' way. So I'm going to go the Saints here in this one over the Browns. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, you just never know what you're going to get out of Jameis Winston, right? Like, I mean, he put up a hell of a game against Baltimore a couple weeks ago and knocked off, one of the AFC and the NFL's powerhouses. And then he puts up, absolute stinkers in last week. So, you just never know what you're going to get with him, right? He was a 30-30 guy for a reason.
Yeah.
On the flip side, right, the Saints showed a lot of promise under a new head coach, right? I think that it kind of lit a fire in their ass. MVS, it's kind of that Rashid Shaheed replacement, deep ball weapon, right? He had 2 touchdowns on like 4 catches or something like that.
Three catches, 2 touchdowns, like 109 yards, something crazy.
Exactly, right? That's a Rashid Shaheed role in this offense. So I think he's bringing a little burst to the team. A new addition. Derek Carr's liking him. Hopefully he doesn't lead him into some hospital passes like he did Olave. But Kamara's playing well. Taysom Hill's back. So I just think, the Saints have the momentum, right? A new head coach, if that can spark something in you and beat a team like Atlanta, you start to get rolling, right? And I don't think they're going to be a playoff team by any means. But when you come in, you're playing a team like the Browns, who is mediocre at best, right? Especially under Jameis. Like I said, you never know what you're going to get with him. I have a lot of confidence in the Saints. Just keep that momentum rolling and take another win here. So I'm going to go with the Saints.
I love it. Get it back in the win streak before the bye week. That would be awesome. Going into the bye week, 2 wins in a row. Then you got the rest of the schedule. It's the end, or we got the Commies and the Packers back to back. But before that, you got the Giants and the Rams. So it's like a little bit of a cushion before it. So hopefully you can win all those games leading into the Commies game. But yeah, a win would be great here for the Saints and Darren Rizzi. Next, we got the Ravens taking on the Steelers. And like you just said, Jameis Winston kind of cooked this Ravens defense. And then last week, we see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, just single-handedly, that duo just destroyed this defense. So I would say that this Ravens defense really is struggling right now. And it's mainly in the secondary. The secondary is the worst part of it. And I think if the Steelers, George Pickens and Russell Wilson, and then Mike Williams even, who getting a little bit involved last week, if they can have good connections this week, this is going to be a big game for the Steelers offense. And I think Heinz Field, I know it's not called that anymore, Acrisure, whatever you want to call it, but Heinz Field, the terrible towers are going to be waving like crazy. The Steelers fans are going to go crazy, the Yinzers. And I just think the Steelers come out and solidify themselves as one of the top teams in the league and beat the Ravens. A huge game on Sunday. I'm going to pick the Steelers here in this one. I know a lot of people are picking the Ravens, MVP favorite Lamar Jackson, but I think the Steelers come out with an upset and beat the Ravens. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I know Burrow and Chase cooked him, right? But the Steelers don't have a Burrow and Chase, right? They have Russ and Pickens, and that's
Russ and Pickens,
that's levels below Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I just don't. The Steelers concerned me last week, actually, with how they played defensively against the Commanders. There was a lot of drives in that game when I was watching, just that was not the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that we think of old, of this year early on, right? The way they played last week was a little concerning to me because Jayden sometimes, and I know he's a good quarterback, but that offense moved a little too smoothly against the Steelers defense, right? Now, do I think that is necessarily, who the Steelers defense is? No, but think about Lamar Jackson, right? Very similar quarterback to Jayden Daniels, and then throw Derrick Henry into the mix, right? So I think that's the big thing for the Ravens. It's just their offense is a powerhouse. Even if their defense sucks, their offense is very good and good enough to win some of these races to who could score the last point, right? And we saw it against Cincinnati, right? They just were scoring at will against them, and since he was scoring at will against them, vice versa. So I just don't think the Steelers offense can score at will like Cincy's can. And I think the Ravens, while they're playing a better defense than they did against Cincy, and while they're playing a better defense than they did against Cleveland, you saw what they did to Denver's defense. They were able to dominate that. I don't think it's going to be the same story that we saw that week, but I don't think it's a divisional matchup and it could be a close one. But realistically, I think that the Ravens could win by double-digit points just because they have so much firepower on that offense. So I'm going to go with Baltimore.
I like it. I don't mind splitting these picks here, and I will say the key to this victory for the Steelers is making sure that you can stop Lamar on the run. And that's what they did for Jayden Daniels. They limited him to like 8 yards rushing. If you can do that with Lamar Jackson this game, you make it a little bit more one-dimensional, make him feed the ball to Derrick Henry, obviously. And then you kind of have to shut down Zay Flowers, which happened for the Bengals, and they still somehow lost that game. With Aguilar having a good game, and then I think it was Wallace, whatever his first name was, had like a 80-yard touchdown, which is crazy. But I think the Steelers can limit them to no explosive plays here in this one and end up winning. Next, we got the Vikings taking on the Titans. I don't have anything too much to add, so I'm going to pick the Vikings. Ty, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe you just said make Lamar hand it off to Derrick Henry as if this was
it's a better option.
Maybe not, though. Derrick Henry, I mean, he's playing lights out. But anyways, let's get into the Vikings-Titans game. Yeah, I mean, Titans just bad football team. Vikings defense rolling on all cylinders this entire year. Probably, again, with them and Denver and the Steelers, probably within the top 3 defenses in the league. Maybe some other teams up in contention there, but at least top 5. And Sam Darnold's playing well. I think Aaron Jones is a little banged up, so let's see. I think he got banged up in the game, but then came back. So let's see, how he holds up in this game. But T-Hawk really getting involved now that he's back. Jettas, he's always balling. So, I have a lot of confidence in this Vikings team. I know early on I picked them to be, maybe the Super Bowl. Maybe I feel a little differently now that we've seen Detroit start to roll. Yeah. But I still think that this is a team that, while they may be a wild card, I think this is a team that can make a run and get into the NFC Championship. A lot of confidence in them, so I'm going to go with Minnesota as well.
Yeah, I'm going to go the Vikings as well. I think their defense should be able to win this game for them. Their offense struggled a little bit last week, but it should bounce back in this one. Next, we got the Colts taking on the Jets. And when I say this is a coin flip matchup, this is a coin flip matchup because you never know what to expect with either team. Anthony Richardson's coming back in. Joe Flacco was benched. I mean, they were like, yeah, he's the vet. He's going to lead us to more victories, lead us to playoffs. Like we have higher chance of winning. And that ended up not being true at all. And then the Jets, I mean, they beat the Texans. And then last week, they just looked like shit against the Arizona Cardinals. And you have no clue what to expect these two teams. Aaron Rodgers still can't get really in chemistry with any of these receivers. Even Devontae Adams, they don't really have a good connection. So I'm going to go complete coin flip here. Hey, Siri, flip a coin. Heads is Jets. It's heads. So I'm picking the Jets here, guys. I'm picking the Jets. So the Jets better win. Devontae, I need a good game from you here. Kenny Moore's been doing really well for the Colts, so we'll see if he has a good game. But I think the Jets can win and should win against Anthony Richardson-led Colts. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, calling out the Colts nickel corner as playing well is a crazy call. First of all, I mean, shout out the DBs, but I don't know. This Colts team, right? We talked about it, and I vouched for Flacco. And then he kind of bit me in the ass, but he did what we said he could do, right? Get the balls out to his weapons, but just he couldn't finish, right? They couldn't win ball games with him.
Yeah.
And now we go back to AR. I'm sure his confidence is shaken. He's also hasn't played well so far this season. I mean, 2 for 15 rings in my head every time I think of him. Yeah. That for 80 yards and a touchdown, I think it was, or something like that. I mean, it was an absurd stat. The Jets, they have the weapons, right? And I don't believe in them at all. But against a team that is so lost, like the Jets are lost, right? But the Colts are so lost. I mean, they made a quarterback change 4 times back and forth.
Multiple times.
You think Flacco came in, right, for Anthony was hurt. And then Richardson came back in, then they flip, and then you flip back. Right? That's a lost organization, right? They're just grasping on because they know they're close to that wild card spot. But this is the week that they lose it. I think the Jets pull it off. I think the Colts start to really fall off and are no longer a team in playoff contention. By no means do I think the Jets are a team in playoff contention. Yeah. But I think against the Colts, they get this one done. So I'm going to go with the Jets.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think, to me, it is a coin flip just because you don't understand either team at every given week. But going from quarterback to quarterback, even the coach was like, "We're staying with Joe Flacco. We're going through a process right now. You guys just don't understand." And then they make the switch anyways. It's like, what is going on in this building? It's wild. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. Next, you got the Falcons taking on the Denver Broncos. Ty, and this one, nothing to add here. I'm going to let you do the analysis for this. picking the Denver Broncos to whoop the Falcons after the Saints beat them, and Denver's a better team. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of this, right? Is the Saints beat the Falcons and the Broncos beat the Saints. So, you look at like opponents, right? And then played really close game against the Chiefs last week, who, as it stands, although I say they're a fraudulent undefeated team, are still undefeated at the end of the day, right? Find a way to win is the name of the game. Bo Nix, as I mentioned before, continuing to roll, continuing to look a lot better. I think the big part for Denver's offense in this game is can they get Audric Estime really rolling, right? 14 carries, 50 yards last week. Respectable against a really good, defense. But let's see him rolling. Let's see a touchdown, maybe a little bit more involved in the pass game. Because I know they brought in like Marvin Mims in the backfield, and they were trying to get the receivers like involved in the pass game out of the backfield, which is interesting. But Estime is a good enough receiving back that I think we can try to get him a little bit more involved in that. Let's see him become more dominant. And then the other factor here is, what can receivers outside of Courtland Sutton do? The Falcons have struggled against the tight end position, so can Lucas Kroll and Adam Troutman really show up here? Can we see Devon Vele, Troy Franklin really start to step up as rookie guys? Sutton has been this offense the last 3 weeks, and Bo Nix has been this offense for the last 8 weeks. So we really need other guys to start stepping up and give the rookie quarterback some help. On the flip side, right, Denver's defense, one of the top teams when it comes to sacks in the NFL and pressures in the NFL. In the Falcons defense, actually one of the lower teams in sacks and pressures. I think the stat is Denver has 32 sacks and the Falcons have like 9, right? So that is pretty glaring, right? So the Falcons aren't going to be able to get a lot of pressure against Bo. A quarterback that's athletic, you're not going to get a lot of pressure against him. He's going to be able to make his reads. I think that's huge for Bo. And then Denver is just going to, force some havoc on Kirk Cousins, a quarterback that's not as mobile as it used to be. He has looked better since he did in the first 2 weeks when he was basically immobile with that Achilles injury. But still, right, he's an older quarterback with an Achilles injury. So I think Denver's really going to be able to force him into, pressure, maybe not mistakes, because Kirk isn't, a guy who's ever had a lot of interceptions. He's a good quarterback, right? But I think sacks will be the big thing, forcing them into positions that at a field goal range, just pushing them back, because they got to Mahomes a lot. But Mahomes is a freak. He does 360s and spins it out of bounds when he should be sacked, and it's not intentional grounding because he's in the pocket and gets set. I don't know. He's a freak, but right, Kirk Cousins isn't that, and I think they're gonna be able to get a lot of pressure to him. I think the secondary will be able to lock down their weapons because they're not, Kansas City's weapons didn't do a lot against them, and I don't think the Falcons' weapons are too much better. So I think Denver's offense won't feel a ton of pressure because the Falcons' defense isn't that good, and I think the Falcons' offense will feel a ton of pressure because Denver's defense is that good. I think the Falcons' offense is good, but it's just tough when you're playing a team that can get a lot of pressure like they can. So easy one for me, obviously Denver, but just because I believe in the defense and I believe in Bo Nix. I don't believe in the weapons around it, but I believe in him to make some things happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with the pressure is huge for this game. And I think like something for you to look forward to is the Saints, whose D-line has struggled at getting pressure this whole season, got a good amount of pressure last week, and it was made a few big plays the D-line did. Cam Jordan first sack, Chase Young strip sack, things like that. That's what you want to see. And your D-line is significantly better at getting pressure. So that's something looking bright for you guys. Next, you got the Seahawks taking on the 49ers. I think the 49ers here are going to beat the Seahawks pretty badly, I think. And the reason being that CMC is coming into a second game, already getting a lot of touches in his first game back. This week, going to get even more involved in that offense. And I just say this, Brock Purdy's confidence with CMC in that offense is exponentially larger, more prominent. And I say that when he threw the touch pass, it was like a wheel route to CMC down the sideline. He threw it before CMC is even out of the break, and he's getting pressure in his face, and he just throws it to a spot that he knows CMC is going to be at. And it was an absolute dime. And I think that is huge. And I think that confidence in the quarterback and the offense is going to be significant. Ricky Pearsall had his first touchdown last week. And if he can be a significant player for them, I think this offense will be even better. I mean, they're already down Ayuk, obviously, but if Pearsall can make that step into that role, I think the offense can be perfectly fine. The Seahawks, DK Metcalf should be back. But this offense is just very inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get every week. Geno Smith, I'm not a huge fan of him, and I don't think their defense is playing nearly as well as people thought they would this season. Somebody of the 49ers here big in this one. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, Seattle just feels like a team that's a little lost right now. We've seen the highs and we've definitely seen the lows with them. Sometimes their defense looks like a Mike McDonald defense, and then sometimes they look like the defense of old. And the offense, I just don't know. Sometimes you see them put up a real good fight against a Detroit team, and then you see them put up a stinker against Buffalo. So it's just the ups and downs with them. On the 49ers side, right, it makes a ton of sense that Purdy feels a lot more confident with, a top back behind him, because he just knows that even if he's not playing his A game, that's the type of guy that can carry you in the run game.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is Pearsall, as you mentioned. I think he's an X factor to this team, because you know what you get from CMC, you know what you get from Kittle, you know what you get from Debo. Jawan Jennings is a steady enough piece, but Pearsall is this X factor, right? He's getting those first couple games back in, and he's looking really, really good. He's starting to get rolling, right? I think there's more targets for him without a guy like Ayuk. So, I don't think he's an X factor in this game per se. I think they win with or without him, but I think he's an interesting piece to look at continuously going forward in big games, right? Can Ricky Pearsall show up and play really well? Because if you can have a fourth weapon that it really excels outside of Kittle, Debo, and CMC, we've seen it in the past. Ayuk has been a huge X factor for them. So I'm going to go with the 49ers, but Ricky Pearsall is an interesting one to watch in the weeks going.
Yeah, no, I love that you're bringing him up as an X factor, because I truly think he is, and he could fill in that Ayuk spot in the rest of the season. Depending on, we'll see how he plays this week and how his role goes the rest of the season. Next, we got the Chiefs taking on the Bills, the second big AFC matchup of the week, and I think in this one, like, this is huge for playoffs, like absolutely huge for playoffs. If the Bills can show that like the Chiefs are frauds, prove Ty right, prove all of the people right that claim they're frauds. I'm one of them as well. Just saying. But I think the Bills come into this one and they're going to be very, very pissed that this Chiefs team in the playoffs. I know this isn't the playoffs. They did it last regular season. They beat them. The Bills need to just establish themselves as like no longer the loser to the Chiefs, and they can do it in the regular season, and then they have to do it in the postseason. But getting them in the regular season when they have all this momentum, and the Bills are also trying to get to like a 6-game win streak with this one. This is huge for the Bills. I'm going to pick the Bills here in this one in Buffalo. Bills Mafia is going to be going crazy. What are your thoughts, Ty?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, right? Because I think they're without Keon Coleman. Amari Cooper's been limited thus far. But at the end of the day, we've seen Josh Allen do amazing things with far worse weapons, right? I mean, no disrespect to Khalil Shakir. I think he's a really good receiver. But some of the guys like Matt Collins, right? Some of these other guys who have been serviceable or receivers in the NFL, Josh Allen has looked really good with them so far. I mean, I think that the Chiefs are not the team who their record shows, right? And at the end of the game, like I said, you win, right? Like that is, if you can find a way to win the game, that's huge. But I just don't. They have not beat a team by double-digit amount of points. That is when you come into a team like Buffalo, who has, a guy like Josh Allen who can go head-to-head with Mahomes no matter who his weapons are, right? Like we've seen it in the past. He's had huge games with Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis is doing jack shit in Jacksonville, right? Like that 4-touchdown game, right? That was his guy in that game. So I just believe in Josh Allen. I think he can get it done with no matter who's behind him, who's around him, and who's in front of him, right? He's a really special player. And then on the flip side, right, Buffalo's defense is comparable to the Chiefs' defense, right? Both of these defenses are really, really good. So I think it truly does come down to, like, who do you trust more on offense? The Chiefs don't get Pacheco back this week, which, I think could have been a bigger pull for me for them because I don't think Kareem Hunt has looked as good as of late against some of these teams that he's playing against. I'm maybe this is a hate pick because I hate the Chiefs, but I got to go with the Bills, right? I just believe in Josh Allen. It's been hard for me to pick against him anytime this season, just because he's the guy. He is one of the better quarterbacks in this league, if not the best. So I'm going to go with the Bills.
Yeah, no, I mean, he struggled a little bit last week against the Colts, but they still finished the game relatively strong. And I think, like you said, he doesn't have all of his weapons, yet he still looks confident and comfortable in his offense and the team. So I think the Bills can pull out a big win here and just establish themselves. I mean, it gets them, I think, within 2 games back of the Chiefs in the number 1 spot, which is still something because the Chiefs still have to finish out the rest of the year, and they're going to have more divisional games as well. Next, we got the Bills taking on the the Bengals taking on the Chargers. And this one, I mean, this is another good AFC game that's not really getting as talked as much as it should be. The Bengals, obviously, their offense every single week has looked good. Their defense does not, and that's been a killer for them. It's like Drew Brees in 2014 to 2016, where he's lighting it up every single week, and every single week the defense is letting him down. It's exactly what we're seeing with Joe Burrow here. The Chargers on the other side, their defense is playing well. The offense, Jim Harbaugh has like Justin Herbert, another level. Just like his personality on the field is a lot different with Harbaugh. And I think it's like Harbaugh's instilling confidence and aggression into him. And I think that's really making a big difference. The Bengals, their defense, that's going to be the big draw for this game. If the Bengals defense can hold on to a lead or like hold them to a lead, because I think the Bengals will be able to score some points here in this one. If the Bengals can hold the Chargers down to a reasonable score, the Bengals should win. Do I think they can do that? No. So I'm going to pick the Chargers here in this one because of the Bengals defense. I don't know if it's considered an upset because technically they have a better roster. I'm not sure who's favored right now. FanDuel odds right. I'll look while Ty's making his pick. But I think the Chargers come out and establish themselves as a better team in this AFC conference.
That's a really, really interesting pick. I know the Chargers defense has looked pretty good thus far this season. The offense is not. Maybe Justin Herbert feels more confident, but J.K. Dobbins has not looked very good since that beginning start of the season. His yards per carry has kind of really sunk. I think he's at 3 now.
Yeah, 3.3. Yeah,
3.3. Right. So I mean, not what you want to see out of your top back. Gus Edwards looked pretty good last week, but then think back to what we saw from Gus Edwards in the first couple weeks of the season. He was not able to move the ball at all. So right, like the consistency in the run game has been an issue with them with both of their backs. And I mean, I think Herbert's really overrated. I think raw talent, he's got it right, but I don't think he has shown us anything in his career. Has he made a playoff game? Has he, in clutch situations when they could make a playoff game, has he pulled through? I just don't believe in Justin Herbert. I think maybe if he was in a different situation with more weapons or better weapons, I don't know. But we've seen him with better weapons. We saw him with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. We saw him with those types of guys, Austin Eckler.
Wild take, Ty.
And what did he do, right? Like, I mean, we're going to consistently build up Justin Herbert as this guy, right? Because he has the raw talents. He's big. He's fast. He can throw the ball far. But at the end of the day, the clutch factor is so much bigger, right? Josh Allen has that. He can play like shit and win those games. Herbert, he was at one point in time averaging like 150 passing yards per game, and I'm not sure it's that much higher right now.
He's at 1,900 yards in week 10, so just about like through week 10, so like 190.
That's 200 yards a game. That's your guy? I mean, that's the guy, right?
He's got 11 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Hey, good for him, right? Good for him. I really think this Chargers team is entirely reliant on good coaching and their defense.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up in an arms race with the Bengals, right? This Bengals offense with Zach Moss, and I know I said it last week, we never want to root for injury. They have looked better. It's almost addition by subtraction. We've seen Chase Brown be this insane weapon in the pass game. The run game has looked decent, but the pass game has really been the thing. I think he had like 8 catches last week, right?
Yeah,
he's just a weapon. He had some drops that maybe, we wish he had back. He dropped that touchdown, but then they got the penalty and he ended up scoring anyways. But, he's just been a weapon for them. And Jamar Chase, I mean, he's just a dog, man. Like, he's just a dog. I believe in Cincy's offense. I don't think that their defense, while they're bad, I don't think that the Chargers offense is good enough to score a crap ton of points on them. They scored 27 against the Titans. The Titans are worse than the Bengals, and the Bengals have Listen, the Titans scored 17 against the Chargers. I mean, you could double that at least for the Bengals, right? I mean, they're way better of an offense with way better weapons. I just believe in the Bengals, offense. Throw the defense out. I believe in their offense. I think they can win any game just by trying to score more than the other team because of the weapons that they have. T. Higgins is back this week. I'm going to go with the Bengals.
Wow. Okay. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. I do mind that you think Justin Herbert's a trash quarterback or overrated quarterback. I think he's very good. I don't think the situations he's been in are great. You did mention that, like, it could be like if he was put in a better position, like maybe we've seen more. And I think that's true. I think with a better situation,
situations, right? Because the last time it was Brandon Staley, and he had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and some other good weapons around him. And now he's got a good coach, but now it's Lad McConkey's figuring it out, and Quentin Johnson's figuring it out. And when's it going to be enough for Justin Herbert? Because it's always been enough for Josh Allen.
I think it's coaching more than the receivers. I will say that, because I think Staley, obviously last year, like there was a couple moments in like a few games where it's like, what the hell is this guy doing? Is he trying to lose the game? Like, is he actually trying to lose the game? And I think this year Harbaugh is making better decisions for Herbert for him to succeed and putting him in better chances. And I think that's the key for Herbert. But I do think also like the confidence in him. But like there was like a clip of Harbaugh like literally just like following around Herbert the whole entire like pregame. He's like, "Hey boy, 10. Just keep throwing 10. You got this 10. You're my guy 10." And it's just hilarious, like just like constant chirping in his ear about how good he is. And maybe that's really has have an effect. But I think the Chargers can't. I did look; they are minus 143 favorites in this one, which is surprising. I'm surprised they're favored by that much.
The Chargers are a Jim Harbaugh team, right? They play good defense. Yeah. They run the ball pretty well. And they have a quarterback who's really hyped up and plays mediocre. Look at Michigan, right? J.J. McCarthy was so hyped up and he played mediocre. They had the two backs and they had a great defense. This is the same exact team, but that doesn't work in the NFL when you're playing against a team like the Bengals that have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
Ty, are you a closet Jim Harbaugh hater? Is that what this is?
No, I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he's a really good coach, and I think he does well. I don't think that his quarterbacks are as good as they appear to be to the media.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. I don't mind it. I love you saying your takes, and I support that. But I do think Herbert deserves the hype that he gets. There are moments where he has like bad games, but I still think he's definitely a top 10 quarterback in the league. But I don't
know. He's not. Clip that.
He is what?
He is Herbert, top. I'll give him 15. I'll give him top 15.
Are we talking? Okay. Top 10. Are we talking talent or production? What are we talking?
He's a top 5 talent. He's a top 15 production at best. Talent, but how far does raw talent give you? We'll do a different video, and I'll rank the top 10 quarterbacks.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it one of these upcoming weeks. I'm fine with that. Next we got Monday Night Football with the Texans taking on the Cowboys. Big Texas game here. The Cowboys, their stadium, the sun had a big impact on last week's game, but did it really? It was 34-6, and everyone's still talking about, CeeDee Lamb didn't catch a touchdown because of the sun, and it's like, well, that was only 6 more points, and then you had to make the PAT, whatever. So it would have been 36-13. Does that really matter that much? Like, what are we doing here in this one? Jerry Jones was pissed about it. They're like, "You want me to add curtains?" No. Like, I know what I'm doing. We know where the sun is. This is home field advantage, which is objectively hilarious. Like this owner just getting pissed off at these reporters. The Texans lost a game where Jared Goff threw 5 picks, so that's crazy as well. Their offense is struggling. Ty, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, when you look around the NFL, there's 2 teams that are lost. As I mentioned, the Colts and then this team, right? But this team is lost from ownership down. Ownership's bad. Mike McCarthy's probably going to get fired because they're already talking about how much Jerry Jones loves Bill Belichick because he's a Bill Parcells guy, right? And it makes sense. They're without their quarterback. Their stadium is affecting them. I mean, what else can we choose at this point, right? The Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are the reason they're losing. I mean, they could just keep going on and on and on, right? Without Dak Prescott, it's going to be hard pressed for them to win games like this against really good football teams. I mean, I know the Texans just lost a game when the other quarterback threw 5 interceptions. However, it is the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions forced the Texans into some mistakes. I just don't think the Cowboys defense can really do that. I know they picked off Jalen one time with Trayvon Diggs in the end zone and stuff like that, but it's just they can't score with Cooper Rush. They have no run game, and that hurts a backup quarterback. They're really just relying on Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb, and I mean that's
it. Yeah.
That's it for them, right? And defensively, they got Micah Parsons. And again, that's it for them, right? So it's like, Houston's got to figure it out at some point in time. They get Nico Collins back, in full swing. I think the Texans got to figure it out at some point in time, right?
Ty, I gotta say this. They do have Jonathan Mingo. Don't forget. Big trade target.
I mean, that might be the worst trade I've ever seen. A fourth for Jonathan Mingo. I mean, I wouldn't trade a bag of chips for the guy, but no disrespect, man. But he's not worth a fourth round pick. He has not done anything in the league.
Yeah.
Anyways, Houston. They got to figure out at some point in time. They got the better team. They got the better talent. They got the better coaching. I believe in Houston. They're less of a mess of an organization. They're a mess of an O-line. But they're less of a mess of an organization. Dallas is a mess of an organization, and you can never pick a team that is a mess from the stadium all the way up to the owner. So I'm going to go with the Texans.
Yeah, no, I agree. Texans here all the way. Jerry Jones is causing issues for this organization. The team itself, like Micah Parsons, having a podcast and things like that, where after the game, he talks to me and he's like, yeah, Mike can leave, do whatever he wants, but Zach Martin, whatever, yada, 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 has worked 100 times harder than Mike McCarthy ever has. And then he goes, I'll elaborate more on these thoughts on my podcast, not to any media. And it's like, dude, just focus on football for now. Like, you're in a season, you're losing your whole entire season. Go focus on your season and turn it around. How about that? But I think that's a wild thing in the season. But also the Texans, this running game, Mixon alone should be able to win them this game against this Dallas front seven. So I just think the Texans will win this one in a little bit of a blowout. Like you said, they can only rely on CeeDee Lamb and Ferguson. And it's like, it's a killer for me because in fantasy, Hammer and I in our big league with all of our former teammates have CeeDee Lamb, number one pick, and he's sucked. So it's not really his fault. They have no other weapons to draw off of him, but it's going to suck for the Cowboys for the rest of the season. I think the Texans blow them out here in this one. Teams on bye are the Cardinals, Panthers, Giants, and Bucks. Cardinals, that kind of stinks that they're out. Bucks, we're going to be missing that offense. Baker Mayfield made some huge plays last week. That was pretty exciting. Giants and Panthers, not missing that action on the field too much with their bye weeks. But I will say the Panthers did have another win, two-game win streak going in the bye.
Bryce Young's getting some confidence in him, and that's good to see.
Yeah, I mean, you saw him on the sideline cheering like a little kid. That was the funniest meme ever, funniest video. But good for him. I mean, he's getting some confidence, like you said, and I mean, they're doing it without Adam Thielen even in. So it's like maybe when he comes back, maybe the offense gets a little bit better.
Maybe with Drew Lock next week.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, just an anchor. So we'll talk about that week 12 before week 12. Anyways, it was great talking, Ty. Do you have any closing thoughts for this week?
Yeah, I think this is the week that the Commanders really established themselves as the beast in the NFC East. I think that they're gonna, show the Eagles who's the boss in town. I think Jayden Daniels has a really good game. I think B-Rob is a huge factor for them. While Eckler's played well, you add that ground and pound aspect to the offense. He's a physical back. He can really catch the ball well out of the backfield. The 1-2 punch has shown that they can be really effective for them so far this season. So I really think that this is the week that the Commanders show who's boss.
I like it. Biggest take for me, similar to you, I think the Steelers claim the AFC North as theirs with this one. I think the Steelers fans, shout out to all the Steelers fans out there. I think they get the win. Anyways, that'll do it for our Week 11 picks. As usual, make sure to check us out on all of our socials at Jenks Island. And always click that like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the episode. We will see you guys next week.